Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Art of MMA. I'm your host, Mike Ginn. You know the drill. Make sure you hit like and subscribe. Let us know you're listening. Make sure you leave a comment. Tell us your favorite part of the show. We're going to try to mix some stuff up today, make it a little bit more interesting for you. But first, let me introduce my co-host, starting with MMA fighter. I'm talking about the Savage, Sergio Da Silva. Sergio, how you feeling today?
I'm great, Mike. How are you guys, man? Thanks for having me as usual.
Absolutely. And then I'm also talking about professional kickboxer. I'm talking about the mechanic, Brandon Catino. Brandon, how you feeling?
Man, I'm good. Giants got a W on Sunday, so you know it's a good week already.
Yo, don't start this, man. Don't start this bullshit.
It's only Victory Tuesday for two of us.
So, my God.
I wasn't going to mention it. I'm just saying. I was going to leave it off air this week.
Let's not
That the
go
Jets
there,
lost
boys.
again.
Let's not go there. Come on.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and obviously talk about Bellator. We're going to talk about UFC. A lot of stuff going on last week. There was also some action overseas with Brave and One. We'll talk about a couple of the results with that, but we're not going to get too deep into that. But there is some major news going on right now, and especially in the UFC. So we're going to hit on that real quick. Starting with our good friend Paul Felder. Paul Felder on 5 days' notice, taking on Dos Santos this weekend, still at 155. That's pretty exciting. I know both of you guys are kind of familiar with Paul, so pretty exciting for here on the show. You guys got any thoughts on that fight?
Psychopath Paul Felder, man. I love it, man. Stepping up as usual. Not shocked, not surprised. He's a real fighter. I always go on rants to speak about how everyone speaks about fighting, how they want to fight. I fight anybody. Let's fight. And, I'm hearing that Chandler turned the fight down. He wanted a full camp. And you know what? A fighter's fight, man. And I'm not shocked Felder's fighting.
I love the video they have of him like walking from like the announcer booth into the changing room. And obviously it's from a previous event, but it's still kind of funny.
Yeah, man. He's a tough dude.
Brandon, you got any thoughts on that fight?
You go, Serge.
Nah, man, it's going to be a great fight. I mean, even though short notice, Paul's one of those guys that are always training, always in the gym, always in shape, always ready to go. RDA, former champ, super tough, competitive fight. What stood out to me is that it's going to be a 5-round fight. So, I mean, if I'm RDA, I'm taking it to the later rounds and see what happens. But I'm
see what kind of shape. I mean, Paul's been working out. He's been working with Ryan quite a bit. So
yeah, but working out. I mean, look, I'm obviously rooting for Paul, local guy. I've known him. He's called a lot of my fights before in the past when for CFFC. Always had nice things to say about me, so I'm always going to root for him. And all I'm saying is I know that when you're training for a fight versus like when you're just training, it could be a little different. So I think, I think he wants to get in there and get out sooner rather than later.
Yeah, we'll get into predictions on that one a little bit later for our main event. Go ahead, Brandon.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, man, like the phrase is, man, stay ready, don't have to get ready. So apparently, man, Paul, he's been staying ready. He was able to, step up on this fight 5 days notice and to get down to 155 as well. So that means, man, he must have really still been putting in that work. So that way he could take a short notice fight. And like I said, man, I think it's gonna be a good one, man. Like Paul Felder's really been trying to get to that next level. If you get a W on a former champion,
it'll be interesting to see, and we'll talk about this later. But it'll be interesting to see if he sticks with his retirement, if he wins.
Yeah.
Speaking of fight changes, now this actually affects a couple different fights. So Amanda Nunes is out versus Megan Anderson in December, UFC 256. Megan tweeted out that she had an injury and she was wishing Amanda well so they can run it back in early 21. UFC and Amanda has just said undisclosed reasons. They haven't announced what's going on with Amanda. So we'll just take Megan's word that it's an injury related situation. But not only is that a big deal for as far as the very dormant UFC women's 45 pound division, but also there's another fight that was just made official yesterday or this morning. McGregor and Poirier 2 officially signed for January 23rd. McGregor's been pushing hard to try to get that fight in 2020. Do you think that fight gets moved up from 257 to 256, Brandon?
Nah, man, because they just announced it today, that they're going to fight January 23rd because the Megan Anderson injury happened or I'm not the Amanda Nunes
Nunes, yeah.
fight cancellation happened yesterday. So if that fight just got signed today, you would have thought that they already would have talked to him about doing it in December. So I mean, to me, probably whoever it was like, nah, man, we're gonna do it in January. So they just agreed to do it in January.
From what I understand, Sergio, it's Dana that's holding it back to January. Both Dustin and Connor want to do it in December.
Listen, love him or hate him, Uncle Dana knows what he's doing promotion-wise. The more time he gets, the more ways he's able to get more pay-per-view buys for Conor McGregor. I think the way he's thinking is, you know what? Holiday season, people don't got a lot of money. They're buying gifts. You know what I'm saying? They're going to be probably more selective with spending pay-per-view. If I had to take a wild guess, that's one of the factors in. There's a reason why he wants to do it in January, you know?
So who steps up to that main event then?
Aljamain Sterling versus Peter Yan. There you go.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah.
That should have been the main event. No offense to the ladies. That's a better fight to me than Amanda Nunes versus Megan Anderson as a main event.
It's a better fight, but it was just more respect out of the fact of what Nunes has done, I think.
That's fine. You could put a co-main event.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think she would take a co-main event at this point. She's been a main event. That's a money difference. So.
It doesn't come down to just this side A or side B. You know, yes, Amanda can push a lot of sales, but what's Megan Anderson really gonna do? Unless you're a hardcore fan like us and you actually watch the sport. If you're average everyday Joe who's watched Amanda destroy people like somebody like Cyborg, who I think is the best fighter of all time, you're gonna hear Megan Anderson. You're gonna think, wow, Amanda's gonna run right through her. Are you really gonna shell out that pay-per-view money?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the Jan Sterling fight is going to be super exciting.
Yeah, that's the main event.
So we'll go for that, but we'll move on. But I think it's definitely something watching because now that fight card's down a fight and see what they do to replace it. But
Chandler Ferguson.
I hear Chandler doesn't want to fight till 21 now because he already made that weight for the Khabib fight. So now he doesn't want to do like Tony Ferguson and keep cutting weight.
Nah, he called. I mean, well, all I know is that he called out Tony Ferguson after Connor and Dustin signed their contract. He was like, oh, where you at, Tony Ferguson?
Well, maybe he'll be ready by that January card, and they can do like kind of a runoff. Because there's also, I don't want to keep dwelling on the Connor fight because we've talked about that for a few weeks, but there's also word that Connor's trying to get down to 155, and if they do, if Dana can't talk Khabib into going 30-0, because Dana still believes Khabib's coming back for 30-0. I don't. I think once Khabib says he's done, he's done. But Connor's doing a test run right now to get down to 155. And if he can get down 155, Dustin will go for 155 if he thinks it's for the title, even interim. So we'll see what happens with that. Speaking of champions, our good friend seems to be in the news every single week, Israel Adesanya, talking about this reminds me, and you guys will remember this. You remember when Floyd Mayweather versus Pacquiao took years to get together? And Floyd would always be like, I'm the A side. I'm going to make more money on this. And Pacquiao was like, let's just do 50-50. Let's just fight. Here we go. Years later, a fight that everybody wants to see, Adesanya versus Jones. Adesanya's like, I'm the A side. You have to come to me. Sergio, I'll start with you on this one because I know Brandon's got some opinions on that one. I see his face lighting up on this one.
Common sense, man. How's Adesanya the A side? Is he drunk or something? Yeah, he's got to be.
Yeah, we just had to talk about.
Yeah, John Jones, 15 title defenses. What are you, crazy kid?
And he did fight this year. I mean, it's been now forever because of COVID and everything else. But it was February they fought, right?
It's a no-brainer, bro. You're out of your mind. I'd put John Jones as the A side versus any fighter on the planet right now, including GSP or Anderson Silva. Or how's John Jones not the A side?
Brandon, is Adesanya's head just getting a little too big right now, or does he have the ability to back it up?
Nah, man, he's just talking. He just trying to make some noise. Cause I mean, like you listen about what he just said. He just said like, "Oh, John Jones, you have to come to me." If that's true, then why is it that you're going up to 205? You're going to John Jones's weight. So that means you already know who the A side is.
And who do you see talking about it more?
Oh well, yeah, no doubt. It's all Adesanya because he wants to build up. He wants to build that up. He's kind of taking the Conor like level of promotion. Let me talk as much shit as I can and get this fight. So when we do, if they do, it's going to be a big pay-per-view buy.
So many guys for him left in his division before he goes up, man. He's out of his mind. I'd be worried about Kevin Holland too.
Yeah, we talked about that when we had the solo episode. I'll be honest. I do not think that he can beat Jan. Like I think Blachowicz is just too big for him. And And he's one of those, like we'll talk about it later when we talk about Glover, but like Jan's one of those dudes, you can hit him, you can knock him down, you can beat the crap out of him. He's still going to get up and keep coming at you. And it's not Costa who the lights are too big for him or whatever happened with Costa in that main event. This is a guy who's been there. He's been fighting for a long time. He's like, 36 years old or something like that. He has nothing to lose at this point. Blachowicz is going for paydays and headlines. And if that fight happens with Israel like it's supposed to early next year, I think he's in a world of difference. I don't think he's going to be used to that. Can he win? Can he beat Jan? Possibly. I mean, he's the more technical guy. But Reyes was more technical than Blachowicz too. And that didn't work. So
I don't know, man. Mike, I have to disagree, man. I think that's an easy fight for Izzy, even though he's a smaller guy. I mean, I think he picks Jan apart. I think he makes Jan look bad. Other than the Dominic Reyes fight, I don't know if I'm a fan of Jan. I mean, yeah, he's a great fighter. He's in the UFC, but I don't know if he's a champion caliber fighter.
he is a champion though.
I mean, yeah, that's what I said.
Through default. I mean, it is what it is, but
other than beating Reyes, right? So you eliminate Reyes there. John Jones stays in the division. Does he beat John Jones?
He was next for Jones anyway, though.
Yeah, I don't think he beats John Jones. So to me, he's only the champ. I mean, look, I hate to discredit guys, but it's kind of like I like Justin Gage's approach when he was saying he wasn't the champ, when he had won the interim champ against Tony Ferguson. Like, the real champion's Khabib, and until I beat him, I'm not the champ. If I'm Jan, I'm taking the same approach. I don't feel like I'm the champ until I beat John Jones. John Jones leaves, then yeah, okay, I get it, but can he be? Is like John? That's John's division. Let's be honest. That's John Jones' division.
Before we move on real quick, Brandon, I'll start with you. I'm going to ask both of you guys this question. Did John Jones moving out of the division for even temporarily, whether it's permanent move to heavyweight or he's waiting for the next big challenge, did that just make the 205 division exciting again? Because now there's all these different scenarios of, is he coming up? There's new contenders now, when everybody was like, all right, well, John's just running through the whole division. Did that just actually ignite the 205 division by him actually getting out of the way for a minute?
Yeah, it did, because you could say the same thing happened at flyweight division when Demetrius Johnson had lost the title because he was dominating, and then next he lost to Henry Cejudo. The next the 125, hey, it got exciting. Why? Because the dominant champion wasn't there for a while anymore. So now it's like you got all these different fights. It's the same thing with 155. Khabib is gone now, and he didn't have that many title events, but he was still that dominant presence. Now it's like, oh, everybody is gonna be swapping the belt. So it's the same thing here now. You just had the Glover fight. Everybody's now excited for Glover to get a title shot again. When before it was like, nah, we don't need to see him get a title shot. But now it's like, oh, we want it now. Why? Because Jones isn't there. Because now you have new matchups, different fights. So everybody's excited for it.
Sergio, what do you think?
Yeah, I think definitely it opened up the door. I think this situation is similar to, like Brandon said, the flyweight division. But the biggest difference, I think, is that Mighty Mouse actually lost. So at least Cejudo stayed behind, and he wasn't, he gave the guys a chance to like actually make that division relevant again and actually fight and feel like they're the champion. Whereas in this division, you're always going to be like you're the champion because John Jones left. If John Jones was here, none of you guys would, okay, we watched Glover. Let's say Glover comes and beat John. Glover lost to Jones. So you're like, damn, my theory is even more valid now. That's John Jones' division.
It leaves a lot of what ifs, but at least it has us talking about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not right now. I hate to say it. I always hate to discredit fighters, but I just don't think John is Blachowicz is the guy in that division. I think he's temporarily holding it. I was thinking for Thiago Santos, who lost to Teixeira, but I think Teixeira now comes and beats him. If Izzy comes up, he beats him. I don't see Jan as one of those guys who I'm like, okay, that's his division. Like, okay, he's until he proves me otherwise.
Yeah, we'll talk about all that later when we get into the Glover Santos fight. We were all wrong about that, but Glover's just a machine. One other little tidbit, and I won't talk about this one, but I'll just bring it up, is also LFA just signed Alex Pereira, kickboxer who just happens to be the last man to beat Adesanya. So be interesting to see with his crossover into MMA, how that goes. He's a 2-division glory champ, right up Brandon's alley. Real quick, Brandon, you got anything to add about Alex Pereira that we should know about?
All you need to know is that dude is on like I don't know what it meant. Like last couple of years, man, he stepped his game up. I mean, this dude is a knockout machine, just finishing guys. He came in as a boxer, really, just having his hands, but then he started adding kicks. But I mean, lately, like his last, I want to say 4 or 5 fights, nothing but KOs.
Yeah, I saw that. I mean, everybody knows that highlight of him and Adesanya. He knocked Adesanya out cold.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean, even moving up, he was finding dudes that were 209, just dropping them, left hook, putting them to sleep. Like his left hook is dangerous.
Yeah, you got anything to add on that, Sergio, before we move on?
I mean, there's no secret. You just got to learn how to wrestle. If you can stop the takedowns, that's what guys are going to start doing. So I'm hoping. I don't know where he's training. I don't know what the camp. I don't know where he is. But I hope wherever he is, that all they're doing is wrestling for him now, because that's what guys are going to try to do, take him down.
Real quick, we'll hit on a couple more things and then we'll roll into the results real quick. But one thing that's kind of something we've been talking about, actually, funny enough, and Sergio, you've been talking about this with the PFL fighters and whether they think they're under contract or not under contract. It's still a very gray area, and I believe it's with permission. I don't think it's something she just did on her own. But PFL female star Kayla Harrison, who's like one of their marquee tickets right now, another one of the up and coming fighters, kind of, in that Olympian mode. She's going to be fighting in Invicta on November 20th. So, I mean, I have no doubt that no matter the level of competition, that girl is the real deal. She's gonna legitimately compete no matter what promotion she's in. But is this a situation where she's going to Invicta as a stepping stone to the UFC, or is this just a situation where, and she's out of the contract with PFL, or is it a situation where she is just on a loaner to keep her active, and this was another fight that was available for her? Sergio, do you know more about that? Because I know you were talking about the PFL guys.
Yeah, I have a couple of friends who are on the contract with PFL. I think that they just don't have anybody for her, and Invicta's the only place where they would find somebody for her. Not even like big girls in general. I don't think even as low as, I think it'll be her first fight at 45, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah, I think she did once before, but I think she bounces around.
I mean, I hate to discredit people based on competition. Like, oh, she's only doing this, but I like to see her fight, somebody a little bit more skilled, even though it's not her fault. Like that girl, Gabby Garcia. I don't know if you guys are familiar with her.
Yeah, I mean, nobody's going to fight at 205 for
That's what I'm saying. She was winning all these world championships, and I'm like, yo, that's awesome. That's great. Congratulations. I want to sound like a hater, but who is she competing? Her division, there's 3 girls, and 2 of them just.
I mean, they're basically promoting her like the next Ronda Rousey. She's an American judo champion.
Yeah, but Ronda Rousey had a lot more girls in her division, than Harrison has. Again, not to discredit her. Maybe she is the real deal. I'm just saying, who is she up against?
Yeah, I mean, she's been around though for a while though. She's 30 years old. She's not. I know,
but she fought the last PFL fight I watched. She fought somebody's like soccer mom or something.
Yeah.
I hate to say it. No, it's serious, man. It was a girl that was just like, damn, this girl should be fighting amateur. And she's over there like whooping her ass. And I'm like, what does she really get? It's not her fault. She's a big girl. Like, she asked, there's no competition. What is she going to do? But like, am I going to jump on the hype train and say like, yeah, she's the real deal? Not yet. I think I'd like to see her fight somebody.
Brandon, you're not going to see too many fights at 155 for her. So she has to go down to 145.
Well, no. So I was going to say, so with the thing with the PFL, what they're doing is, because they want to, I guess, honor their contracts, because like I said, they're supposed to, give them fights, but they're not returning till April. So what it is, so now is that you can go outside to other promotions. You just can't go to the UFC or Bellator to get fights. So that's why Kayla Harrison is able to go to Invicta. Now, I want to say, so for her, right? Remember, they made a division for her, just like how the UFC did for Ronda Rousey. They made that 155 division, But we all knew that, like the talent at 155, there's not that many women there. So now,
if you look at, sorry to interrupt, but if you look at her record, like there's not even links. Like you go to Wikipedia and stuff and look at her record. Like she just fought Peshigo for the second time.
Mm-hmm.
That's 2 of her 7 wins.
Yeah.
He hasn't, and that one actually went all 5 rounds. But none of those girls even have a link as far as like, hey, this is their history. You can't.
That's what I'm telling you. They're literally picking girls who are like, oh, okay, you're a blue belt in jiu-jitsu. Got it. You got a little bit of hands. All right, good. You're a big girl. Throw her in there. That we got her in a point.
No, I mean, like her last fight, the girl that you said that she just went all 5 rounds. I was actually there for that fight. I seen it. But that girl was on the Ultimate Fighter in the UFC for 145, but she went up to 155 because that's how it is. Like even this year coming up, you got my girl Cindy Dandonis. She's joining the PFL. The fight's gonna be at 155. But you never know, man. Maybe she might like it at 145. Then maybe they might make the division to be a 145 division instead of 155 division.
I'll add this real quick before we move on. I was actually sleeping on her. So Larissa Peshko is her name, Peshko. And not only does she have UFC experience, she lost to Durandamy, but she has beaten veterans like Sarah Kaufman. So she's not a, just a nobody. And she has
no offense, but she beat Sarah Kaufman
and she beat your girl. She beat your girl Irene Aldana too.
Yeah, now if you look at the weight they probably fought, Sarah and Aldana probably fought her up weight and probably were outweighed by 20 plus pounds. Only fought her because they couldn't get other fights. If I had to take a wild guess, I don't even got to look. When was that fight? I'm gonna guess.
She fought Sarah
last
Kaufman
October
at 155 because it was during the tournament.
There you go. So Sarah Kaufman was normally is
a 135er.
A 135er. So my theory is literally, I said 20 pounds, 20 pounds. And that's if we assume she's not cutting weight, because she might even be heavier. Do you know what
she
it's
knocked
like?
out Aldana though.
And at what weight? And how long ago?
Naturally, she's a 145er. What she fought that weight at, that was back in 2013. It was a long time ago. But
there you go. Aldana's fighting at 125, bro. So if she fought her at what, 145?
No, Aldana's the one just fought Holly Holm.
Yeah, Aldana is 135.
She's 135, 145.
Yeah, because she fought Caitlin. So she fought Caitlin at 35?
Yeah, I think so. Before
Aldana's been going back and forth, but she's naturally a 135er.
All right, but if she made 25, you could also argue she's a 25er.
Well, no, because Holly Holm fight was 135.
Yeah, I mean, you don't know, but if you're gonna get a fight like that, I mean, I fight McGregor at 55 tomorrow. For that kind of fight, Holly Holm, big name. I think Irene is a normal 25. She's not a big girl to me, but okay, let's even say 35. She fought another girl at 45. It's still heavier especially for females. A little bit, 10 pounds is huge for guys. 5-10 pounds is a huge difference. But this other girl's fighting girls 20 pounds lighter. I mean that. I don't know.
No, all I'm saying, dude, if her end goal is to be at 145, the UFC is not the spot. Bellator is where you want to go. They have women at 145. UFC has one person, and that's Megan. I'm sorry, 2 people. That's Megan Anderson and Spencer. That's it. Those are the only true legit 145ers. Everybody else is a 135er.
True, but Nunez does need somebody to fight at that title.
Hey man, if I was her, I would just drop it and just stay at 135.
All right, let's move on real quick before we jump into the results. Couple quick notes. One, Art of MMA would like to send out our thoughts and our prayers to Mark Coleman in the hospital following a heart attack. Mixed martial arts legend. Thankfully, it doesn't sound too serious, but he has had a lot of medical stuff over the last few years. So shout out to Mark Coleman. Get well soon. And then a programming note, a couple things. One, tomorrow night, NBC, was it on NBC Sports, right?
Yeah, NBC Sports.
XFC 43. Our good friend Bradley Featherstone Desir fighting in the welterweight tournament there. They also got some former UFC fighters on there. Jessica Aguilar is on there. Kurt Hollabaugh is on there. So something worth watching, something different on a Wednesday night. Make sure you go out, support Brad. He's going to be on the prelims. And then this week, we also have Christian Edwards on Conversations. He's a 4-0 undefeated Bellator fighter out of Jackson Wink. And next week, we actually have one of the stars of Cage Fighter on. So definitely something to keep an eye on, pay attention. We got a lot of good stuff coming out. I don't believe there's going to be an episode of Certified tomorrow because of Veterans Day in honor of it, and also because my daughter's home, so that's going to be a little difficult. But shout out to all the veterans. Thank you so much for your service and for everything. If we don't get a chance to talk to you again before then, thank you so much. Gentlemen, you ready to get into some of these results? Let's start off with Bellator 251. We're going to kind of skip over one in Brave because we really didn't watch too much of it. Real quick, in Brave, Ayub beat Silva. He knocked him out, won the lightweight title. That was at Brave CF 44. And at 1FC inside the Matrix 2, Abasov beat Nakashima by TKO in the 4th round to retain his welterweight title. So shout out to both those guys. I'm sure bigger and better for both of them. I'm looking forward to more of these cards making a little bit more noise here in America, but all these cards are kind of being held overseas and not getting as much publicity because of the pandemic and everything. So once we get some more results and get a chance to see some more of these highlights, we'll cover them a little bit more in depth. But let's jump into Bellator. We did get a chance to see that. A couple guys we know, had Fortune in the co-main event. Of course, Corey Anderson and Melvin Manoff in the main event. We're going to jump right into the main event. Now, all right, guys, I'm going to go ahead. For shits and giggles, I picked Manoff last week because everybody was on the same page.
Intoxicated.
Everybody was on the same page for every single fight. We were like, all right, yeah, I picked that too. I was like, you know what? Screw it. I'll pick Manoff. First of all, that was just stupid. But second of all, I never we've talked about this a lot. You never tell a fighter when it's time to go. It's his choice. It's his body. It's his career. We talked about Cowboy. We talked about it with Diego. We talked about it with Anderson Silva. I'm going to go out and tell you right now, it's Melvin Manoff's time to go. Can he still knock out somebody? Yeah, he's deadly in that cage. But that was a situation with Corey beating up an old man. That's my opinion. You guys can disagree with me. I'll start with you, Brandon. There was really not much to talk about that fight. Corey came in. He did the one thing we said he probably shouldn't do. We thought he was going to, all three of us thought Corey's best path was to take him down and ground and pound him. He didn't even have to. Brandon, tell me what you thought of that fight.
Hey, man, Corey Anderson, Corey Anderson did what he's supposed to do. Got him down to the ground in that second round. He put the finish on him. Like I said, man, to me, Melvin Manoff is not a light heavyweight. That dude should be fighting at middleweight. That dude's a 185er. You could tell just by looking at his body, that dude was looking chunky. He wasn't looking ripped. He wasn't looking in shape. He was looking chunky at 205.
He also was way shorter and had way less reach.
Exactly. 205 is not his division. He should be at 185, but maybe he was just like, oh, I don't want to cut the weight. I'm just going to go out there and just try to blast dudes. But I mean, if he stays at 205, then yeah, I agree with you. He shouldn't be fighting anymore. If he maybe drops down to 185, might be a different story. But I don't know what his plans are. For if he wants to still keep on fighting at 205, or if he wants to maybe get down to 185, maybe it was a short notice thing. They were like, oh, hey, we want you to take this fight with Corey Anderson. And he was like, okay, I'll do it. Main event. Why not? Eyeballs will be on me. So he took it, and he maybe didn't have time to really drop down for a 185 fight. But
Sergio, no disrespect to Corey, but at 44, Manoff definitely looks slower.
Listen, I agree with Brandon. On top of being in the wrong weight class, I also think Manoff's in the wrong sport. He's one of those guys that transition over from kickboxing, and I think personally never really got it going in MMA. I think part of the reasons why he didn't adapt and overcome what part of mixed martial art is the word itself. Mixed, he never really, if you pay attention, never really worked his wrestling. I think that's the biggest thing. A lot of people underestimate Adesanya's wrestling. But if you watch his takedown defense, I'm not saying he's unstoppable, but he has his footwork is very different than when he fought kickboxing. He has the fundamental. He moves out of the way. He's constantly circling, constantly, moving in angles where it's harder for you to take him down. He uses his range really well. And I think that if guys don't adapt to that, they're going to come over. I don't care if you're the best kickboxer in the world. So the first thing I said about this guy, Pereira, who knocked out Adesanya, he can't come in MMA and think it's going to be the same thing. Oh, these guys don't know how to strike. Because a lot of strikers, and I spar with a lot of strikers when I'm getting ready for fights where, my coach is just having me stand with them. And these guys they think that it's like fighting inside a ring is the same as fighting inside of a cage. And it's not, because you know what? When I'm able to take you down and that's part of it, I'm not going to stand in front of you. I'm going to switch the way I stand, the way I move. I might lower my hands a little bit more so that you think like, oh, look, he's got his handle. Let me go and throw a big power shot. And that's when I duck right under. So with that being said, I think Manoff just was one of those guys where MMA didn't work out well for him.
Yeah, and I'll say this about Corey Anderson. We all know Corey's talent. We know in the UFC, he has some big wins. And now he's in Bellator. Maybe they just don't have enough competition for him at 205. Maybe it was last second. I don't really know the particulars to that.
Some great fights for him at Bellator, actually. They just
I-
gave him that one to get his feet wet through the door.
I can see that. I will say one thing though, and this kind of disappointed me, kind of Adesanya Costa style. When he won that fight, then everybody has their ability, and I'm not knocking anybody for celebrating winning a fight. It's an adrenaline dump. It's exciting. But he almost looked like he was talking shit for knocking out a 44-year-old man. Like he was coming out so cocky after winning that fight. And I'm not saying you have to be Barry Sanders and been there, done that, hand the ball to the referee, but like I don't know. I thought it was a little over the top for winning a fight against a 44-year-old man, but
He did the same thing with Johnny Walker.
yeah, but at least that made more sense. Like that was supposed to be somebody who was supposed to give him a fight.
Yeah, I just think, I mean, not to justify his actions, but I just think that because he was fighting a guy who everyone, he was a heavy favorite, he had more to lose than Manhoff had to win. And I think that like all that pressure, that's how he let it go at the end. The adrenaline got to him. And I think that he showed, that it's like, all right, oof. He might not have acted like he thought he could lose, but until you finish the fight, until you get that W, you never know.
So what's next for Corey?
I'd give him the championship against the guy that just beat Ryan Bader.
Do you think he'll get Ryan Bader? Because isn't Ryan holding both, or is he just holding?
No, Ryan lost to the Russian guy.
Ryan lost.
Oh, that's right. You're right.
That's what I'm saying. I say I give Corey. I wouldn't give Ryan Corey off of a loss, but I'd give Corey the title shot right away. Big name coming from the UFC. He was a top 10 guy in the UFC. Came in.
That's something Coker would do too.
Yeah, give him the title shot. Give Corey the title shot.
I hate to. Go ahead, Brandon.
No, I was gonna say I think Phil Davis should get the next title shot. And then I think Corey Anderson should either get the winner of that fight, if you want to give him the next title shot, or he either fights say
Ryan Bader, Davis go
or he could fight Liam McGeary if he's still around.
Nah, Liam's done.
I was about to say I don't think Liam's fighting.
Yeah, that's my boy. But I wouldn't give him Bader because Bader's coming off a loss. Why would you give him a guy coming off a loss?
Now that Brandon mentioned it, I'd like to see him versus Phil Davis.
I think
you also don't know if the Russian. You don't also know if the Russian guy can come over and fight.
If the Russian guy can't come over and fight, then yeah, obviously I give him a fight with Phil Davis. But I think didn't he fight Phil Davis before?
I'd have to look it up. I don't believe.
Wait, who, the Russian?
No, Corey Anderson.
Corey Anderson.
I don't know.
Quick question while I'm looking that up, and I hate to put this on you, Brandon, but you're next up in line. What's up for Melvin? What do you think's next for Melvin? You think that's it? You think he's got something left?
Nah, I mean, dude, who knows? Like I told you, man, like you look at the way how people are right now, man. You look at Anderson Silva's 45, you look at Yoel Romero, what is he, 44 as well, and then you look at Glover, 41,
and he's never fought Phil Davis before.
Yeah, like I'm saying, you just look at the age, and I mean, saying some people cut it off at before 40, some people cut it off after 40. Like I don't know what Melvin's doing. I don't know if he wants to drop down to 185, if he maybe wants to go back to kickboxing, because I know he runs his own kickboxing promotion, which he has fought for before on his own promotion. So who knows? He might just go back and do that.
Before we move on, I will say this one thing, last thing about Corey. He's kind of like one of those situations where every time he's had a big fight, he's lost. Yeah. He lost to Volante when he was undefeated, and he first kind of like was busting on the UFC scene. He lost a split decision, but he still lost to Shogun. He lost to Manoa. He lost to St. Preux. And then he lost to Blagojevich. So every time he seems to be like on the cusp of like making, like you said, he had that big knockout against Johnny Walker, and like, all right, cool, he's ready. He goes out and gets knocked out in like 2 minutes to Jan. So unfortunately for Corey, his thing has always been when he does step up in competition, he doesn't deliver. Yeah. So maybe Bellator is different. Maybe it's fresh soil. Maybe he'll take over Bellator. Maybe one day he'll get back to UFC, but it's definitely worth watching. Only other fight I really want to talk about on that.
Wait. One more thing, Mike, because it's for you, because you're the guy that I was thinking about. Because I remember I'm like, yeah, Corey Anderson actually put a tweet out about this, and I wanted to find and read it, and he was like, oh, question to myself, why the casuals mad that I beat up a 44-year-old man off, but nobody cared when he beat up a 40-year-old Glover? I just want to know why. What's the difference? They're both in their 40s. He beat them both up. Nobody was on him about Glover being old, but everybody's all mad about Manoff being old.
Well, in fairness, Glover was 39. But I'd say the difference is like what Sergio said. Manoff's a kickboxer. Both of you guys said that he went up to 205 when he should be at 185. There's a variety of reasons why. And first of all, he didn't beat up Glover. It was a unanimous decision. And I remember that fight. He didn't beat up Glover. Did he get the better of him? Was he more sharper? Did he avoid the biggest thing is he avoided the takedowns. We'll talk about this coming up real soon. Thiago didn't avoid the takedowns with Glover. Corey was the one on top of Glover. That was a big difference. But we'll move on from Bellator. That's my response to the casual fans. This casual fan is MMA. Got some quick words after that, but I'm gonna edit that one out. All right. One other fight I want to talk about, the co-main event. Terrell Fortune, unanimous decision, 29-28 over Soma. That fight wasn't quite as exciting as I thought it would be. Really not much to talk about in that fight because neither guy really got off. Sergio, what do you think of that fight?
Honestly, I didn't get to catch it, man, if I'm being completely honest.
All right, then we're gonna cut that part out. No, I'm just kidding. Brandon, you caught it.
I was gonna say, man, it's heavyweights. Either it's gonna be really exciting or it's gonna be really boring. This one was on the really boring side. It wasn't really that exciting.
And we talked about it last week. I was looking forward to seeing him after what he did to Zoo.
Yeah,
I was like, all right, this guy's got power.
But I mean, though, props to Fortune. You know, he's on the bounce back because I mean, he did have that one bad loss where I believe he got finished, but
Johnson
bounce back. You know, he's getting some wins here. You know, so I mean, kudos to him. Like, I mean, I'm sure Bellator is still high on him because, like I say, heavyweights. You know, you're always looking for some heavyweights to be out there. He's definitely still on that prospect level of just keep growing. So I mean, kudos to him for getting the W.
As far as the rest of the card goes, the only other really fight that I took notice of was Derek Anderson getting back on the card after that whole mishap with Ball Daly and whether Paul could have fought or not fought and the whole cancellation of that main event. He got back
another controversy.
Yeah, he got back in the win column, beating Mota. He knocked out Mota with a really nice head kick in the second round. Any other fights catch your eye on those cards, guys? Sergio?
No, that one. Watching Derek back was pretty cool. I mean, the perfectly timed kick too. A lot of people were saying it was illegal, and it wasn't.
No, I didn't think it was illegal. I thought it was nice.
Yeah.
Brandon, anything else catch your eye on that card?
Yeah, man, just like I told you, the one fight that I was looking forward to, it was the first fight of the night. Basically, you know, some women just making one lady, she was making her debut. Other lady was just 0-1. The girl made her
versus Ruiz.
Yeah, the one girl who made her debut, she won. You know, she won. She looked good. She got the finish off in the first round. I think it was mostly stand up. She had her up against the cage. Then like less than a minute, actually no, like 15 seconds left, she like took her down, mounted her, finished her with some nasty elbow. So, you know, she could be somebody to look out for the 125 division.
All right, something to keep an eye on. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to jump on to the UFC. I should put a cool little segue in there for that. Main event, all three of us picked Santos. But man, Glover is just a machine. Like, Santos hit some of the most vicious combinations on Glover. You thought Glover was done at least 3 or 4 times when he wasn't laying on top of Santos and pounding him. Like, he wasn't just laying there. He was doing work the whole time, like beating up Santos on the ground. But when they were on the feet, you thought at least 3 or 4 times that's it. The tide's turning. Santos got him. And Glover get rocked. He'd fall down. And Glover, whether it's grabbing a leg or doing something, like, he just does not quit. Even at 41 years old, he doesn't quit. Brandon, break down that fight for me.
Hey man, age, nothing but a number. That's it. Like I said, he did his thing. Like, it was a lot of back and forth. Like, I remember there'd be times where I'm like, oh, this fight's over because Santos, he would be on top, and then next thing you know, he gets reversed, and the next thing you know, Glover's on top doing his thing, and he caught him with that nice submission, you know, and it was a wrap.
Sergio, you're the grappler. They constantly tell me or tell the audience that Santos is a black belt in jiu-jitsu. How does a black belt, and I know there's different levels, but how does a black belt let even Glover, who is also, I believe, a black belt, but that wasn't jiu-jitsu getting him down, that was wrestling. How did Santos constantly keep getting himself in such bad positions on the ground with no defense?
We go back to what I always say. First of all, let's break it down real quick. Black belt, and then there's levels of black belt. That's one. Nowadays, it's just like a lot of guys are getting their black belts because of MMA. I forgot who recently in the UFC got awarded their black belt inside of the cage, where he just won a fight on the feet, and the guy came in and awarded him his black belt.
Yeah,
and I'm
I
like,
can't
bro,
remember who, but I saw that.
I remember when it used to be cool when guys like had a nice transition and did like a lot of cool grappling stuff, and then his coach would come out and be like, "Yo, you earned it. Like you deserved it. Here's your black belt." I saw, that's when it used to be cool. But now it's like, bro, the guy just stood there kickboxing, like, and you gave him a black belt for what? For performing striking? Anyhow,
Taekwondo.
I'm not saying Santos is not one. Glover is a really good grappler, but also the second point I want to make here is there's same thing I say when I say about boxing, and same thing in kickboxing and striking, and the same thing I say about wrestling. Right? There's wrestling on the mats. There's wrestling for the cage for MMA. There's boxing and kickboxing in the ring. There's boxing and kickboxing for MMA. If you notice, there's difference. Same thing, jiu-jitsu. One of the best grapplers for MMA is Khabib, but two, a very good friend of mine, underrated, Jared Gordon. His ground and pound is vicious. Okay, he's not, honestly, I'm not talking shit. I don't give I'm sure if he hears this, he's
You
gonna
talk
laugh
enough
about
shit
it.
to him online. I'm sure.
Exactly.
You see, people
Listen,
see that.
put Jared to just grapple, just do jiu-jitsu, I'll whoop his ass. Straight up. Add in punches and make it into an MMA, he'll make me look like I'm a white belt. Because there's little things you do. You're striking, you're opening up the guy. So Santos, as he can be maybe a high-level grappler on the mats. Once you're getting punched in the face, man, you're not able to do what you normally would do in a grappling match. Very few guys are able to translate that high-level grappling into MMA. Guys like Damian Maia do it very well. Bryce Mitchell does it very well. This new kid that just won in the Contender Series, Jimmy Flick, I like a lot of stuff he does on the ground. Our friend Sean Shorty Rock Santella, he transitioned his grappling to MMA. Few guys can do that. There's a lot of high-level grapplers who come over to MMA and don't do well because it's not the same. And guys need to know that.
You guys keep constantly talking as mixed martial arts. I'll tell you one thing. One, Glover has more than earned his way back to the title shot.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Whether it's John Jones coming back, or whether it's Blagojevich, whether it's even, if Reyes gets a run back, which I don't think he will, but no matter who's in his path, you can't bet against Glover. Like, the guy is just a machine. Like, you have to give so much respect to a man like that who, no matter how much I feel bad when he's like 85 years old.
He's already a little slow, man. I hate to say it. I've spoken to him before in person a couple of times, and you can see he's definitely already slurring his speeches and shit.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely had to take some damage. I mean, as most people who've been fighting for a living for as long as he's been fighting for a living. But that said, like, that dude is a machine, and you don't want to be across the octagon from him. I don't care who you are. He's definitely earned his shot next. If he has to wait for the winner of Adesanya versus Blagojevich, which Dana wants to do, so be it. Take some time off, enjoy yourself. You earned this victory. I'm sure he'll have some kind of medical suspension. I didn't see the listing yet, but I'm sure as many shots as he took from Thiago, I'm sure there's some 6-month suspension or something coming. So Thiago, honestly, we've been talking for years in the MMA industry since Rumble Johnson disappeared and kind of like went home and did some different stuff. And he's been talking about making a comeback for at least 2 years now. How exciting would a fight between him and Thiago Santos be? Because they're like the same guy. Brandon, you're the striker. Would you like line up to watch that fight?
Yeah, man. I'd be down to watch that fight. I just don't know if Rumble is coming back at 205 or if he is going to come back at heavyweight, because I think that's the thing that people weren't sure about him, because I mean, he did fight at heavyweight a couple of times, but he was like, oh man, these guys are too big, and that's why he dropped down to 205. But then I think,
I mean, in fairness, he only fought all those weights because he didn't want to cut weight at 170 anymore.
Yeah, but I think,
still don't know how he made 170 ever.
But I think though that, I mean, I feel like saying that he did talk about maybe doing heavyweight again. But I mean, we'll see. But I mean, if those two were to scrap, man, it would be a good fight. It would be a good fight. But plus two, man, a lot of things people forget, man. Anthony Johnson is a wrestler, or should I say he has wrestling credentials, so he could maybe wrestle Santos down and then just ground and pound him that way too.
Sergio, what do you think's next for Thiago? We know what's next for Glover. That's pretty much easy at this point. He's got the title shot. What's next for
I
Santos?
like to see Thiago versus Dominic Reyes, man. I think that's a fun fight to make. They haven't fought. Two guys coming off of losses. Somebody's gonna rebound. I know Reyes is booked to fight Juri Projaska, however you pronounce his name. So off the top of my head, or maybe if you want to give Thiago somebody like I don't know. I think Dominic. To me personally, I think the Dominic Reyes fight for Santos is a fun fight.
I think he knocks Reyes clean out.
Yeah, I think, but that's why I think it's a good fight. I think if you want to build him back, and you kind of, I think that's the fight to make.
Could maybe give him Johnny Walker.
I can't say Yuri's last name either. Prochazka,
something like that.
I mean, I could see Thiago matching up against. God, that's hard. Ozdemir, maybe Rakic, Alexander Rakic, maybe. That'd probably be a good fight.
Yeah.
But you put him against Reyes. Walker? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, you don't want to give him Johnny Walker?
I think he knocks Johnny Walker out.
And Walker's all the way down, man. I think he just won one fight, but he didn't look good. He fought a guy who wasn't even ranked, and was it Ryan Spann? I think he fought.
Yeah, Superman Spawn.
Yeah, I mean,
Spawn's 12, and I love Ryan. We've interviewed him on Art of MMA too before, but
he was losing that fight too.
You gotta remember, Thiago, not only is he a good striker, he hits hard. When he hits you, he sends a message every time. Ask John Jones. If John Jones literally wanted to take him down, I think in hindsight, he probably would have won that fight easier. But standing on his feet, going toe-to-toe with Thiago Santos for 5 rounds, even with 2 torn knees, and it was a displaced fracture too or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
The amount of injuries, the fact that Thiago still, both those guys, both him and Glover are so super.
I think what hurt Thiago the most was just the ring rust, the cage rust, whatever you want to call it. I know a lot of guys say they don't believe in it. I believe in it. He fought a guy in Glover who, forget his age for a second, but he's fought 2 really tough guys in recent, his last 2 fights. Anthony Smith being one of them. And I think that Glover needed one more warm-up fight before fighting a fight like Glover, who's been fighting. I think if Thiago would have fought somebody who was on the sidelines for a little while and they were both out of sync a little bit, would have been better. I think Thiago's had adrenaline dump because he looked good the first 30 seconds. He was mopping him up the first 30 seconds. He was dropping.
Whenever they were on their feet.
Yeah.
I mean, Glover can hit. He comes from that Chuck Liddell school. Glover can hit. He didn't want to stay on his feet against Thiago. No way. Real quick, we'll talk about the co-main event. I don't think there's much to talk about, honestly. I think all of us had really high hopes for Tanner Boser, and like Sergio said online, he showed Arlovsky too much respect. Andre Arlovsky just cruised in that fight, and Andre Arlovsky did his thing. He landed some big shots throughout the fight. Never really kind of paired them together. It was more like one-off here and there. Boser had a couple shots in and there. Even once where I saw him kind of rock Arlovsky back, but he just never followed up. He never pushed the pace. You're talking about a guy who both his fights this year is just nonstop pushing the pace, and here he gets against a legend, and he just didn't pull the trigger. Sergio, you're the one who said that online. Break down that fight for us.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, Tanner Boser looked really good his first 2 fights in the UFC. He was a champion outside of the UFC, came out super explosive those fights, and then with Arlovsky would literally flinch a little bit, and Boser was running like he was terrified of him, like he didn't want to be in the cage. He was like, oh my God, is this? Sometimes when you're a younger fighter coming into a big under the lights like that, the bright lights, that's the difference from the average fighters and the great fighters. That sometimes when the lights come on, you come up, you rise, your level rises with that light, and some guys diminish. And unfortunately, at least for the time being, Boser showed that he's definitely, the UFC gave him the perfect platform, gave him an old guy name, co-main event. They gave him the 3. They said, look, this kid, here's your opportunity, kid. Go out there, knock him out fast, and then we can talk about who's next for you. And
it should have been a stepping stone.
And you know what he did? He flinched every time Arlovsky would move an inch. He'd flinch like he was terrified to be in there. Reminding me of what was that fight? somebody recent that fought Cormier. Not Cormier versus yeah, actually it was Cormier versus Stipe. I found that in the beginning, any little feint that Stipe would throw, Cormier was like terrified, like he was showing him that he was scared to be in there. And I felt that's what Arlovsky did with Boser.
Brandon?
Hey man, like we talked about with the Tyrell Fortune fight, man. Like I said, some heavyweight fights are exciting, some heavyweight fights are boring. This one was it was it was on that latter side.
I don't
like,
even want to call it boring though. It's just like you were on the edge of your seat waiting for both of them to pull the trigger.
Yeah, like to me, it's like what Sergio said, man. Like to me, like Tanner, Boser had good movement. He was always moving, but he just wasn't throwing. And then Arlovsky would maybe throw one shot out, two shots out. He'd hit them both times, and then Tanner would just go back to just moving, going backwards, circling, but he wasn't going in. You know, he wasn't really attacking.
I mean, props to Arlovsky. You know, he came in, he did what he was supposed to do. Showed he still has some gas in the tank. He never really put himself in danger in that fight. So he did what he was supposed to do, and now he'll get another fight because of it. And Boser will have to go back and fight the middle of the line heavyweights and try to earn his way back up. But that's going to do a lot of damage to Boser because, like Sergio said, this was supposed to be that next step.
I agree. This really took Boser down. They're going to put him back.
Look at him a little differently now.
He's going to go back on the prelims, and he's going to go back on like fighting guys like off the Contender Series or something.
All right, I think I know what fights you guys are going to pick, but Sergio, why don't you go ahead and get started? Tell me another fight on that card you want to talk about.
I like Adelia versus how do you pronounce her name too? That's
Gianan.
Yeah, Gianan. I like that fight.
With our friend of the show, Shorty Rock, was in that corner for.
I think Jan striking looked phenomenal, man. She was sharp as hell.
I'll tell you another thing she did. She made corrections. Like when Claudia, like I was rooting hard for Claudia. I'm no secret. I'm a big fan of Gadelia. When she took her down in the first round, it was a totally different fight the second and third round. Her corner and Jan just made adjustments. That's something that's just good coaching. Go ahead, Sergio.
Yeah, I thought that I keep hearing how strong Gadelia is, and Gadelia had her up against the cage a couple of times. And I was like, all right, she's gonna get a takedown, and yeah, just defended that takedown, would push away, frame her neck, get back to the middle, back to work. And even what was very impressive too, even when she was on the ground, she was very aggressive off her back with the elbows and the punches. She didn't just lay on her back and try to get up, which makes it easier for a grappler. If you just want to grapple with me, that's what I do. Versus if you're elbowing with the top of my head, now I got to worry about that versus trying to pass. So I think that she did a really nice job. That girl's tough, but she's not going to beat the champ either. I'd like to see her fight Rose.
Brandon, you might agree with this. I think Jan did a great job of using her reach and her length to establish distance to keep Claudia off her the second and third round.
Yeah, man. I say just like you, man. I'm a big Claudia Gadelha fan. I was rooting for her. Like I said, I thought she did good at the first round. She got her takedown, controlled her, but second and third round, she wasn't able to get that takedown anymore. And again, I think she's still finding her striking ways. Hanging out with Mark Henry and everything like that. But I mean, just Jan was just. She was just better. She was just popping that jab out, just keeping her away, keeping her distance. And then if she did get taken down, she was able to reverse it, and she was just throwing some elbows.
Would you agree with me that Claudia is kind of taking a step backwards in striking? Because you remember the fights with Joanna when Joanna was champion, and like those are the only, like it was almost like Mighty Mouse versus Benavidez. Claudia could beat anybody in the world except for Joanna. And when they were fighting, like they were going to wars, like it wasn't a lot of takedowns. It was a lot of striking. Yeah. And both of them were going toe to toe. And in every other fight I've seen with her, and you talk about her working with somebody like Shorty Rock, who is known to be an amazing grappler. Is she focusing a little too much on the grappling and less on the striking in her training?
I mean, that I don't know, because like I said, I know Mark Henry, I believe, is her main coach, and he's good with the striking because that's how Frankie Edgar, he got good with his hands and everything like that. I mean, yeah, it is kind of weird because even when she fought Carla Esparza, like Esparza was kind of lighten her up, and, you know, and they were supposed to run it back, and like, I mean, Esparza was talking about dropping her and everything like that. So I mean, I don't know, like sometimes I feel like, you know, when you go to these camps, you get new coaches, it's all about meshing, you know, trying to see what it is that you can get out, you
I
know.
think sometimes you just focus a little bit on one thing and kind of like forget to do the other.
Yeah.
Um,
Also too, I kind of been a big fan of, man. I don't know if 115 is the right division for her. Like, I've been thinking that, man, that maybe she would move up to 125, because I know before, like, she used to have kind of, I felt like dropping down to 155, it would drain her. That's why I want to say, like, that first round, you know, she got her down, but then after that, you could just tell after the first round she looked tired. Now,
yeah, I don't think she has the strength to go up a division, because she was definitely not the stronger person on their feet.
yeah.
Speaking of which, on their feet, I know which fight you're going to talk about. Go ahead and bring up the fight you want to talk about. I think the whole world knows where Mr. Professional Kickboxer is going to go with this one. Go ahead.
Oh, man, I gotta show love to my man Giga, bro. Kickboxing 101 set him up perfectly. Body kick, the dude felt it. Hand dropped.
Like you said,
Right to the
Kickboxing
head.
101 online. You tweeted that. Go low,
Yup.
go high.
Exactly. And that's what he did. Hit him in the body, hand drop. He thought that kick was going to the body again. Instead, went upstairs, caught him right in the temple, dropped him, finished him off with the hands. Told you, yo, Giga's been doing it. He's been doing a real good job since coming to the UFC. He's with a good camp, you know, King's MMA. You know, the man who started Judo Box down in Brazil, saying he's got good striking. You know, he's hanging out with
Rafael Cordero, baby.
exactly, you know, and he's hanging out with
He's training, you know, he's training Mike Tyson too, right?
Is he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean his takedown defense is getting there. You know, I mean, so far, like, I don't think he's really been going up against grapplers yet, but I'm telling you, but he can do some damage. He can do some damage at the 145 division.
I mean, in fairness, the kid he fought to this fight looked scared almost. Like, he wasn't afraid, like, as far as attacking Giga, but he definitely didn't look comfortable in the cage. Sergio, do you have anything to add to that fight? Because that was pretty
I listen, I hate to knock on guys when they win by knockout, right? It's not much to say, but just let's keep in mind, he fought a guy who's normally a 35er. He fought a guy who's making his UFC debut, and he fought a guy who probably had no business being in there with him. Now, with that being said, he's asking for a co-main event spot. I think he's getting way ahead of himself. I think he goes back to the gym, keeps working his wrestling, because I know 20 guys in that division that will make light work of him if they take him down.
Yo, he called out Jeremy Stevens.
He's out of his mind. And the reason why he called Stevens out is he's smart, but he's forgetting one small detail. Just because Stevens is a brawler and been knocking people out, Mr. Stevens has very good wrestling.
Yeah.
And if he takes him down, I don't care what kind of grappler striker you are. Your striking on the ground means zero.
I know Giga has a big name, but honestly, his name is from kickboxing. And when you come into the UFC, it's kind of like starting over. He does carry that over a little bit. But honestly, the fight I'd like to see, and I think all three of us know the guy well, I'd like to see him go up against Hurricane, Shane Burgos. Like, I think that would be a fun fight, because Shane isn't going to sit there and necessarily grapple with you. Shane's going to just go toe to toe until one of you fall, and he's normally the one still standing. I would love to see that fight.
Yeah, I'd be down for that fight too. The funny thing is, like, a lot of people like don't know this, but like Shane originally like is a grappler. Like, when he started out doing
Early
like
CFC,
everything, like, he was getting
Teixeira.
submissions. Like when I met Shane and we were training everything, like, he was really known for his grappling. And then next thing you know, he just kind of he got good with his boxing. So I mean, to me, Shane can do it all. He can strike, he can go on the ground with you. So I mean, that would be another that would be a definitely an exciting fight.
Sergio, what do you think's next for Giga?
Just to touch on Shane. Shane's a good friend of mine. I like Shane. I love Shane.
All of us know Shane.
I'm not excited about that fight. I mean, I actually am, because I actually think Shane wins. Disagree. I don't think Shane is going to stand there and bang with him. I think Shane has the tools too, but I think he's also an encyclopedia. He's a very smart fighter, and his fight IQ is very smart. I think his wrestling is underrated. He's very hard. I think he'd take him down and submit him, actually, to be honest with you. So if you're waiting for a stand-up fight, I don't think that'd be the guy. I think Shane is too smart to sit there in front of him.
You say that, but we've seen Shane's last few fights in the UFC.
Yeah, but he's coming off a loss, man. He needs to win. I don't think I don't think Shane is stupid that's gonna go there and be like, you know what? Let me go put on a show. Shane wants to win and wants to get back to it.
But also too, man, Shane, he wants to move up. Giga's behind him. He's trying to move.
Yeah,
up.
why would you fight him? Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
a case where Giga has a name that kind of puts him above rankings.
Nah, I don't think he has a big.
I mean-
honestly, I don't think Giga has a bigger name than Shane right now. To be honest with you,
Like I said, Giga has a name, but like you said, in kickboxing fans,
in kickboxing, yeah.
The casuals, they don't know.
Yeah.
They don't know who he is.
Well, you look at
Yeah.
somebody at the bottom of the rankings, somebody like Bryce Mitchell, who's only 14 right now. He's going to move way up. But you look at somebody, Bryce Mitchell would tap out Giga in a heartbeat. And that's no disrespect to Giga. It's just somebody on that different level of grappling.
That's if Bryce can take him down, because we still don't know really too much about Bryce's like wrestling, you know, if he really could take him down. Because I'm telling you, Giga has good takedown defense, man.
Well, here's a fight I didn't think about. How about Giga and Barboza?
That could be a good fight. That would be a good fight.
You know what? I got a better one. That guy that just fought Barbosa, actually, Giga and
But Danny?
Yeah, but he's coming off a loss.
Amir Khani.
Yeah, but Amir Khani's coming off a loss now, so that doesn't.
Or all right, or you know, a kid like Dan Ige, who just lost to.
Ig would be good, but Ig's also a little bit higher in the rankings too, 11. So, I mean, you know, it's hard. Like we were talking about, when you got a name versus ranking. Like
I'm not so honestly, I'm not sold in MMA for Giga yet. For
we'll see.
kickboxing, yeah. But I want to see him fight. Actually, you know what? You want to test him? Give him a wrestler. See how his takedown defense is.
Yeah, my fight I want to talk about, because he's such a good friend of the show. We just did conversations last week. We did with Nick Dilly and Anthony Burchak, who was great enough to come on the show literally 2 days before a fight. He got the notice literally like a day and a half before that. I was worried he wasn't going to make the show, but he still did. He man of his word. He showed up. Him and Nick Dilly had a great episode. And especially if you're a comic book fan, me and Nick really chopped it up about comics at the end of the show. But Anthony Burchak took the fight on short notice against a really good friend of his. Sergio, you talk about it all the time, how you really wouldn't want to fight a friend. But there was a situation, and I talked to Anthony, and I was like, Anthony, and I didn't know at the time when I interviewed him that they had crossed paths. I mean, I knew they'd crossed paths a lot. They'd both been in Combat Americas. They had both been in different circles at the same time. And I was like, you know, do you know this guy well? And he's like, we've trained and sparred hundreds of rounds. And it was one of those situations where Gustavo Lopez's opponent dropped out at the last second. I believe he had COVID or something, but I'm not sure. I don't want to put that out there if I'm not 100% sure, but which I actually just did, but I apologize if I'm wrong. But his opponent dropped out. They said they offered him Burchak because Burchak's been on the edge of getting back to the UFC. You know, he left 4 years ago under a contract dispute, believe it or not. It wasn't he was cut. It was a contract dispute. And he wanted to go fight in Japan, and he found out the hard way about judging and rising if you're an American, which we've talked about before with people like Shorty Rock and stuff. However, you know, here he is, took this fight on last second. Burchak agreed to it. He called Burchak. He's like, look, I know we're friends, but if you don't take this fight, I don't have a fight and I don't get paid. And you've been trying to get back in the UFC. Let's just go out there, bang like we've been doing for years and sparring, like just go at it and put on a show for the fans. And then they did. And unfortunately, Burchak looked good early on, but Gustavo Lopez is actually one of the top in his division, like on his way up. And the kid has a world of potential. I just hope he actually almost caught Anthony a couple times in that rear naked choke. But once he did, it was locked in and that was it. I really hope the UFC does Burchak right, because he did take the fight on such short notice, and give him at least one more fight to see, you know, if he is legitimately still on that UFC level. I think for Lopez, I think he looked great. I think he's going to keep moving up the cards. Sergio, you're a grappler. What do you think of that fight?
I think Lopez, for the most part, looked really good, and people don't talk about it against Merab. Merab, who's a top bantamweight. Lopez took that fight on short notice, didn't get finished, went on decisions against the machine. Lopez stopped a lot of his takedowns, kept bouncing up to the feet. So I knew Burchak was going to have a really hard time in that fight. The fact that they've trained hundreds of rounds before, I personally don't like that, for the two simple things. A, just I couldn't fight someone I know, and B, I don't like people knowing what I'm good at and what I'm weak at. And I'll tell you why. Lopez probably wanted that fight. We don't know. We weren't in the room. He probably got the best of Anthony in the sparring room. Because I'll tell you right now, if I sparred with a guy and every time I sparred with him, for example, he got the best of me, I don't think I'm calling him and say, hey, take this fight so I can get paid. I'm probably like, oh, I'll wait for the next one, guys.
I mean, you don't know their financial situation either, though.
That's true, but I just don't see Anthony. I'm not in the room with them. Brandon could probably chime in on this, but if you spar with a guy for hundreds of rounds and let's say he always gets the best of you, will you take that fight again? I know a fight's a fight and practice is practice, but in the back of your mind, if I had to take a guess, it's probably why. Who was it? Dillashaw with Cody, I think. He kept asking for that fight because they knew how it was in the training room. You get what I'm saying? If you don't get the best of a guy, or if it's at least not competitive, you're not going to be calling for that fight.
I know personally, and maybe Brandon can speak to this more. I know personally that Anthony and Gustavo are both grapplers, but Anthony, when he fights, is usually a striker. For better or worse, he tends to get caught up in the striking, and he was starting to get those leg kicks on Gustavo, and he was starting to get a little bit of traction, and Gustavo then transitioned to take him down. Is that one of the things, like Sergio was saying, where you just know you might have an edge on the ground?
I mean, to me in this fight, like I watched it, like I said, I was rooting for Anthony as well, you know, because like I said, because I watched the interview that you did with him. But to me, man, he got
Thank you.
got
More
caught.
people should. Thank you.
Yeah, like I mean, but to me, though, he got caught first standing. Like he got caught a couple of times, and that's why I think he used his hands to set up that takedown. Like he caught him, he was rocked a little bit, and then that's when he went in, took him down, and that's when the finish happened. But it's like, but it is kind of like what Sergio said, man. To me, it's like, yo, if you know you're getting the best of somebody, like sparring and training, then when you guys do want to go pro, or you guys do want to get that fight, like you would call them up, and you would say, yeah, you would be like, yeah, I want this fight.
It's tough to say where either guy really goes from here because, Sergio's touched on it. Gustavo lost to Merab his last fight, even if he did take it on short notice.
And looked great, even on the loss.
He looked great, and he looked good this one too.
Yeah.
You can't really put him against number 15 like Marlon Vera because Chico Vera is moving up in the rankings after his big win over what's his name, Sean?
Overhyped O'Malley.
Yeah.
Sean overhyped O'Malley.
Maybe put him against Yodong. Maybe against somebody like Cody Stamen, something like that. Maybe even a Rob Font. That'd be a fun fight.
Font has a fight, I think. Font has Marlon Moraes.
Okay. So there's a lot of really good bantamweights. Fortunately, I think a lot of them are actually kind of tied up right now. And I don't think you jump him all the way up in the rankings to fight somebody like Masano or Rivera or somebody like that. So
it's a good fight for him right now with a guy that was on the same card as him, Raoni Barcelos, both unranked guys, and both guys winning that fight. Raoni looked really good. Then you move them up to the top 10, 15 guys for their next fight.
Yeah, I just think Barcelos a little bit higher up on Dana's food chain, but maybe I'm wrong. The only other thing talk about that card before we get into the picks was, unfortunately, Brahma made news for the wrong reasons. He got his fight medically stopped, TKO for injury. That was nasty. That ear was hanging off. So thoughts to him. Hopefully, they can fix that up and he can be back fighting sooner than later. I've seen situations where people, what's his name? Overeem had his lip torn off. It's just unfortunate part of the fight game. You get hit, kick, sometimes
Leslie
stuff.
Smith, she had her ear too against Cyborg.
Who'd you say?
Leslie Smith.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't Cyborg. It was Jessica I.
Was it?
Yeah, it was Jessica I.
But yeah, we've seen that stuff kind of happen in the game from time to time. It's an unfortunate side effect of when you're putting your body on the line. So like I said, hopefully he gets a full recovery and they're able to, it didn't affect his hearing or anything like that, hopefully, and it's just cosmetic. So guys, you ready to make some picks for next week? Yeah. We got a couple cards coming up. Let me pull them up real quick. First off, Bellator 252. I know Sergio, you're pretty heavily invested in this one. We'll talk about the main event and then maybe one other fight you want to pick. But Patricio Pitbull going against Pedro Carvalho. Two guys really can go. I'm gonna make Sergio wait a second. Brandon, go ahead and start because I know Sergio's gonna talk about this in a second.
Yeah, I'm a little bit in a rush, guys. I actually got to run out. So if I could
All right,
just,
go ahead, Sergio. Make your pick on this one, and then
yeah, I mean, obviously Pitbull, without a doubt, no ifs, ands, or buts.
And since you got to get out of here this weekend, another fight close to you, Paul Felder, Dos Anjos.
Felder, baby.
Felder, is that a hard pick or is that a real pick?
Real pick, man. No pressure on his shoulders, coming in shape, ready to go. Finishes him early.
All right. Any other picks you want to make before you get out of here? Something that somebody sleeping on?
Yeah, man. Emmanuel Sanchez and Weichel. I think that's the tournament, another tournament
252. Yeah.
fight. Yep, good fight there, right? I think that's gonna be fight of the night because I think Pitbull's gonna put Carvalho off fast, but I think that Weichel and Emmanuel Sanchez is gonna be a good fight. I cornered against Sanchez before. Super talented guy, doesn't get enough love, so that's a good fight.
All right, cool. You go ahead and take off. Me and Brandon to finish up a couple minutes, and then that'll be a wrap. So,
all right, boys.
Sergio,
thanks a lot,
thank
man.
you so much.
Take care,
No
Sergio.
problem.
We'll see you
I'll
next
see
week,
you.
buddy. All right, Brandon, just you and me. Let's break down these cards, and then we'll get out of here. As far as Pitbull versus Carvalho, who you got in that fight?
Same thing like Sergio, man. Pitbull all day. I think Pitbull stays champ. I mean, to me, right now, he is the top of the class. Like, there's only one person who I really want to see him fight, and that's AJ McKee. That's the only other featherweight I really want to see him fight right now.
No chance for Carvalho, who's rolled off 6 straight now.
I mean, of course, man. There's always a chance, but I just think Pitbull is just on his game right now.
Personally, I just think Pitbull has too much experience for that fight. You're talking about, I mean, Carvalho's been around for a while, but he's only 11-3. Pitbull's 30-4. Yep. Only losses he really has are against Benson, Strauss, and then you got to go all the way back to 2013 when he fought Coran, and 2010 when he fought Joe Warren. So, I mean, Pitbull's been around forever. He's been fighting professionally since 2004, which is crazy for a guy that's only 33 years old.
Yep.
He's got a lot of wear and tear, but you're talking about 34 fights. Only 4 of those have gone to decision. Only 4. And I believe 3 of those were losses. So if you get him to a decision, you got a chance. But, I mean, you're talking about a guy who equally can knock you out or make you submit. I got to go Patricio as well. Co-main event on that card is going to be Amislaw versus Logan Story. Logan's another guy. Funny enough, I was actually about to reach out to him to try to get him on conversations until I realized his fight was this weekend, or this week and Thursday. Both guys are undefeated though, but I actually think Logan Story, Amislaw is 24-0, Logan Story's 11-0. I actually think Logan Story actually has more of the momentum though. Am I wrong?
I mean, he does, but I kind of think that Amislaw is just gonna edge him out. I think Amislaw is just gonna be the one who's just gonna take it.
I mean, Amislaw is very well rounded, and he's fought a lot. I think the biggest win probably on him is maybe Eric Silva, maybe Gerald Harris.
Yeah, because I mean, I think just Amislaw, like I want to say because he's kind of on that Khabib mold. You know, he just has that smothering style. I think he just might be too much for him. He's just gonna just smother him out. Yeah,
personally, I'm picking Logan Story. You going with Amislaw?
Yeah, I'm gonna go Amislaw on that one.
All right. Only other fight I really think maybe keep an eye out. I mean, that's actually a really good card on Thursday. Aaron Pico is worth watching. He's always a highlight reel. It's kind of crazy to see that he's 6-3 now. I still remember when he burst on the Bellator scene. He was supposed to be the next big thing, and then he lost that first fight, and you know, it was crazy. And then he came out in the next fight and knocked somebody out. So really, you don't know what you're getting with Aaron Pico. Actually, I'm really going to be watching a couple fights further down. I'm always really interested to see some of the Gracie guys when they first kind of come into MMA. Conry Gracie is 2-1 versus another guy who's kind of getting his feet under him in Good. So that'd be worth watching. And then Feraldo versus Casey is going to be a pretty interesting fight too. Casey's got a little more experience, but Feraldo's another guy coming up. Anything you're looking at on that card?
Yeah, I mean, Sergio had talked to him before he left, but the other featherweight tournament against Sanchez and Weichel, I'm with him. I think Sanchez is gonna take it. Like I mean, Weichel is good, man. He's well rounded, but I just think Sanchez, he's just on a tear right now, and he's well rounded as well. I just think he has better striking.
I didn't realize Weichel has 51 fights.
Yeah. You know, but I think Sanchez is just he's just gonna pull it out. And then on the prelims, you know me, man. I'm a fan of the ladies, so I always gotta check out my girl Carrie Melendez, the wife of Gilbert Melendez.
Mhm.
You know, I'm always down to see to see how she does.
I just think she runs through Emily King. I don't think there's really much to see there.
Yeah.
I think that's another
That's
fight that Coker's kind of feeding to get her boosted up a little bit.
yeah. But that's really kind of about it.
All right, let's move over to UFC. We'll make the picks real quick on that, and then I'll let you get out of here. Sergio already went ahead and picked Felder. Who you got?
Hey man, you know me. I'm picking Felder as well. I really do like RDA. I'm a RDA fan, but I guess I'll take it this way, man. If RDA wrestles him, takes him to the ground, he gets the W. If he keeps it standing, I think it's gonna be Paul Felder's night.
The only thing about RDA is that he hasn't been very active either. He's coming off 2 straight losses. He lost to Chisay in January. He lost to Leon Edwards last year. He hasn't, his last win was Kevin Lee back in May of 2019. But he's lost 4 out of 5. Now you can say he's fought a murderer's row. He lost to Covington. He lost to Usman before beating Lee. He lost to Edwards, and then he lost to Chisay. And all 4 of those losses were decisions. He got the arm triangle choke on Kevin Lee in the late in the fight in the 4th round. And then you know his success. Robbie Law or Neil Magny, Safadine before he lost to Ferguson and Alvarez.
Yeah.
If you're going to beat him, it's very unlikely to get a stoppage. Only person I really see that stopped him in the last few years is Alvarez. Even he's just going up against Pettis and Cerrone. If you're a striker, he can beat you. If you're a grappler, he can beat you.
Yeah.
He just hasn't been on a very good run as of late, losing 4 of his last 5. But Felder's kind of coming off a self-imposed retirement.
Yeah.
He stays in shape. We all know Paul Felder. We all know people that know Paul Felder.
Yeah.
We just had Ryan Cafaro on Conversations a couple weeks ago, who's training Paul Felder right now to get him ready for this fight last second. And Ryan's been involved with people like Sarge and Caitlin and all those people getting ready. So he's been around the UFC circle recently as well. And even though Paul, it's one of those things like we talked about earlier. He stays in shape. He stays ready to fight even if he's not fighting. But when he lost to Hooker versus that split decision, which I honestly thought he beat Hooker. I mean, I know he thinks he lost that fight, and Hooker obviously thinks Hooker won the fight, but I thought it was 3 rounds to 2, Paul Felder, personally. It was razor thin, but he put his gloves down on the mat. He said that's it. I feel like once a fighter does that, how committed are they really to a major main event style fight?
Mm-hmm.
I really hate to pick against Paul because I love the way he fights. Forget the fact that we interviewed him before he was ever in the UFC. Paul is a stand-up dude. Everybody in the world loves Paul. But coming off the couch 5 days in, even if he's in the top shape of his life, there's, like Sergio said, there's a difference between MMA conditioning and regular conditioning.
Yeah. I mean,
I got to go Dos Anjos.
Yeah.
He's been training for this comeback for a while.
Honestly, I don't think really Paul Felder was really retiring because the thing was
There's been talk that he was going to come back. Yeah.
His name was still in the mix. His name was still in the mix to fight people. And everything like that. So I honestly want to say, like, I think he was still training, and I think he was getting ready for a fight. And the next, this opportunity came up, and he was like, "Yeah, why not? Let's do it."
Yeah, but he's been training other people to get ready for fights. That's what he's been doing.
Yeah.
He's been in Philly. He's been, training with like all those guys coming out of, Philly with like, Sean Brady and all those guys. And he's been, he hasn't really been with Rufus, like doing their thing. Like I said, he's been working with Ryan Cafaro doing some other stuff. So is he in fight shape? Probably. But we just talked about ring rust. I mean, it's been less than a year, but he fought in February, I believe, but I don't know. Like, even he said after that fight in February, it just, he's been in so many wars. It's taken something from him.
Yeah.
Dos Anjos has been training hard. Like, everybody I've talked to, like, he's been training hard. So I got to go Dos Anjos. I know you're going Felder. Like, it's just sad that I even have to make a pick in that fight because I love both guys. So, co-main event, real quick, Razak Al Hassan. I feel like we were just talking about him like last week or the week before, going against Kalen Williams. Kalen's 10-1, Rozik's 10-2. Both guys have shown so much promise, but both guys have shown the ability to slip up. Who you got in that fight?
I'm going with the guy that we were just talking about. I'm going with
Rozik Alisson?
Alisson.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna take Alisson too. As of now, they have Brendan Allen on that card this weekend. Did I miss it? Did they reschedule him a fight with Sean Strickland? Because both of them with Strickland just won too.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's going to be a catchweight fight.
Because Allen's opponent last weekend fell out because of COVID.
Yep. So he's fighting against Sean Strickland at a catchweight. There's
some good fights on that card too. I'm looking forward to the Smoka versus Keonis fight.
Yeah.
The ladies, Ashley Yoder and Granger, should put on a good fight. Which fight is sticking out to you the most? And also, do they have an opponent for Daniel Rodriguez yet, or is he just kind of still listed on the card a little bit?
Just to get back to you on the fights that I'm looking forward to. I too kind of like watching a Smoker fight. He's usually always exciting. I want to say like he's a guy who's got that usually comes out with some good submissions. So I'm always down to watch him fight. Let's see. Another fight I'm probably looking forward to is I kind of like Kay Hansen. She's kind of been doing her thing. I know her from when she was in Invicta. So to kind of follow her into the UFC, I kind of want to see where she's going as well. And then the other fight that you talked about, I'm not sure.
UFC just looked at against Brian Barberina. So that's who he's gonna be fighting. Daniel Rodriguez versus Brian Barberina.
No.
Yeah, some good fights to look forward to. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of shoulda, coulda, wouldas on this fight. You got Eric Anders fighting on this card. You got Julian Marquez and Savarov.
Yeah, Eric Anders
brings
it. I like watching him fight too.
Like, I don't think this is a pay-per-view level card, but there's so many really talented fighters on this. It's going to be a really fun fight night.
Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen, some definitely good fights to look forward to. Bellator on Thursday, and obviously UFC on Saturday. And don't forget, tomorrow night, support our boy Featherstone. Get some Featherstone facts dropped on you. He'll be fighting in the welterweight tournament. Bradley Desir. That's tomorrow night on NBC Sports, XFC 43. I'm not sure exactly what time they're going to start airing it, so make sure you check your local listings. But Brandon, you got anything to add before we take off?
Yeah, just for Brad's fight, I believe the prelims, they're going to have it actually on FiteTV, the FiteTV fight app,
Okay.
and it's free. So because that's what he's on the prelims. So you guys want to watch him? He's on the prelims on the FiteTV app.
All right, cool. We'll make sure we check that out. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Art of MMA. We're episode 8 now. Damn, we're moving along. 2 months ago, who would have known? I will give you guys a little programming note. We do have another episode next week, and then we're going to take off for the week of Thanksgiving. We're going to usually probably take off the holiday weeks unless we can kind of squeeze one in. Make sure everybody can spend time with their families and not be rushing around. But other than that, we're going to be here every single week, including next week. Next week, we got a lot to talk about with what's going on this week, and so we'll see you then. Thanks a lot. This has been Art of MMA for Brandon and Sergio. We appreciate all your support, and we'll see you soon.